TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom ve'erev tov, good evening. Welcome to our daily TV7 Israel News Bulletin broadcast from Jerusalem. A ceasefire between Israel and the Iranian proxy Hezbollah holds that after taking effect at midnight. President Trump invites Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Lebanese President Aoun for a meeting at the White House. U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth recommends Iran accept America's demands. Israel and the state of Lebanon have announced their acceptance of a U.S.-brokered ceasefire overnight at midnight. That after U.S. President Donald Trump held talks with both Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Lebanese President Aoun, during the course of which both leaders agreed to America's terms moving forward. During the several hours before the ceasefire came into effect, Hezbollah launched some 4 dozen rockets towards Israel's northern communities, while in tandem, the IDF destroyed over 380 targets belonging to the Iranian proxy throughout the country. IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, prior to the ceasefire taking effect, stressed that the military was trying to achieve as much as possible within the time allotted to them.
We penetrated deep into Lebanon. With bold attacks from the sea, we eliminated the senior command of the IRGC Quds force in Beirut and destroyed weapons caches and command and control centers in the ports of Tyre and Sidon. At this very hour, determined fighting continues on our northern front. We acted and will continue to operate as much as time permits, with determination and force, as we maintain our operational edge and perpetual vigilance. We are diligently monitoring all developments. We are prepared to operate and adjust at any given time. We continue to destroy terror infrastructure, striking and weakening Hezbollah, to wear out the enemy's capabilities, and to guarantee the security and routine of the northern residents of Israel over time. Our enemies, both near and far, their proxies in Tehran, Sana'a, Beirut, and Gaza, learned the hard way that whoever dares to harm us will pay a heavy price.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu subsequently released a film statement explaining to the citizens of Israel the reason he had chosen to accept President Trump's proposed 10-day ceasefire.
We have an opportunity to forge a historic peace agreement with Lebanon. President Trump intends to invite me and the President of Lebanon in order to try to advance this agreement. This opportunity exists because, since the War of Redemption, we have fundamentally changed the balance of power in Lebanon. We activated the pagers, we eliminated the massive arsenal of 150,000 rockets and missiles that Nasrallah prepared to destroy Israel's cities. We eliminated Nasrallah. This balance has shifted to such an extent that over the past month, we began receiving calls from Lebanon to hold direct peace talks between us. This is something that hasn't happened in over 40 years. I answered that call, and I agreed to a timeout, or more accurately, a temporary 10-day ceasefire, to try and advance the agreement we began discussing during the meeting of ambassadors in Washington.
The Israeli Prime Minister continued by unveiling the terms for the ceasefire moving forward.
We have 2 fundamental demands for these peace talks. First, the disarmament of Hezbollah. Second, a sustainable peace agreement, peace through strength. To achieve this ceasefire, Hezbollah insisted on 2 conditions. First, that Israel must withdraw from all Lebanese territory back to the international border. Second, a ceasefire based on the quiet for quiet model. I agreed to neither of these, and indeed, those 2 conditions are not being met. We are remaining in Lebanon in a reinforced security buffer zone. This is not the 5 points that existed before Roaring Lion. This is a security buffer that starts at the sea and continues to Mount Dov and the foothills of Mount Hermon, up to the Syrian border. This is a security strip 10 kilometers deep, which is much stronger, more intense, more continuous, and more solid than what we had previously. That is where we are, and we are not leaving. This allows us, first and foremost, to block the danger of an invasion into our communities, and secondly, it allows us to prevent direct anti-tank fire into the communities. The residents are now protected from these two dangers. Of course, there are still problems. They still have rockets left. We will have to deal with that as well, as part of the progress toward a security agreement and a continuous peace treaty.
Prime Minister Netanyahu continued by highlighting that while the guns have gone silent on the northern front, President Trump remains committed to the war's objectives, specifically vis-à-vis Iran.
I have spoken with President Trump over these last 2 days, and he told me he is tremendously determined to continue the naval blockade and to bring about the dismantling of Iran's nuclear capability. What remains of it? He is not giving up on this. He is certain he can eliminate this threat once and for all, continuing the great things we have done together. Of course, we will also handle the missile threat and the enrichment capability. I will not elaborate. These are two very important moves that can fundamentally change our security and diplomatic situation for years to come. With God's help, we will act, and with God's help, we will succeed.
It is important to point out that residents of northern Israel who voiced their hope for peace with Lebanon are less enthusiastic about the cessation of hostilities, lacking any sense of trust in Hezbollah's intentions to adhere to end their murderous intentions moving forward.
To be honest, as a member of Likud Party, I am very disappointed with the ceasefire. It is clear to us that it will not last. Let's hope this doesn't hold up. A, and B, I know that Bibi had no choice after what we received from the United States for the big hug and support in the war against Iran. We can't tell Trump that we are against the ceasefire. Still, it's obvious to everyone that it won't last. What is most disappointing is that we will continue to suffer as residents of the North. Only the residents of the North have suffered from Hezbollah for many years. What is the ceasefire for? We already knew this 30 years ago. We gave them many opportunities. We were trying to save the opportunities for peace, for brotherhood, to live together. They are not looking for peace. They are looking to destroy us. They say this, we want them drowned in the sea. So how can we come and defend ourselves in these cases when our children are in shelters? This month, we didn't see any air. We were only inside the shelters, and it's impossible to get along. There is no life here.
Meanwhile, in Washington, U.S. President Donald Trump said that Prime Minister Netanyahu and Lebanese President Joseph Aoun are expected to visit him at the White House during the next 2 weeks.
I think they will. I think it's going to be, actually it's very exciting because it's 48 years. We're going to be meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, as you know, and the president of Lebanon. And I had a great talk with both of them today. They're going to be having a ceasefire, and that'll include Hezbollah. And I think it could be number 10 for me.
President Trump continued by addressing the situation vis-à-vis the Islamic Republic of Iran, insisting that the negotiations were making significant progress and that the deal between Washington and the Ayatollah regime in Iran could be reached before the ceasefire transpires on Tuesday, April 21st of next week.
I can tell you, maybe it'll happen before that. I'm not sure it needs to be extended. Just so you know, Iran wants to make a deal, and we're dealing very nicely with them. We've got to have no nuclear weapons. If we do, that's a big factor. What we have is we have a statement, very powerful statement, that they will not have beyond 20 years. That they will not have nuclear weapons. That's beyond. There's no 20-year limit. So very important is that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. Iran's agreed to that, and they've agreed to it very powerfully. They've agreed to give us back the nuclear dust that's way underground because of the attack we made with the B-2 bombers. So we have a lot of agreement with Iran, and I think something's going to happen very positive.
It is important to highlight that while President Trump projects optimism about the diplomatic track, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth conveyed a message to the terrorist RGC leadership in Tehran.
We're watching you. Our capabilities are not the same, our military and yours. Remember, this is not a fair fight. And we know what military assets you are moving and where you are moving them to. While you are digging out, which is exactly what you're doing, digging out of bombed out and devastated facilities, we are only getting stronger. You are digging out your remaining launchers and missiles with no ability to replace them. You have no defense industry, no ability to replenish your offensive or defensive capabilities. You only have what you have. You know that, and we know that. You can move things around, but you can't actually rebuild. You can dig out for now, but you can't reconstitute. But we can. We are reloading with more power than ever before, and better intelligence, even more importantly, better intelligence than ever before, as you expose yourself with your movement to our watchful eye. We are locked and loaded on your critical dual-use infrastructure, on your remaining power generation, and on your energy industry. We'd rather not have to do it, but we're ready to go at the command of our president and at the push of a button.
Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News, which is made possible by the generosity of our viewers. If you would like to help support TV7 Israel, which is exclusively donation-based, you can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and redemption of Israel. Jonathan Essen wishing you an Erev Mevorach ve Shabbat Shalom, and God willing, until our next update, Shalom from Jerusalem.